Шановні колеги, ми розпочинаємо робочий день в Українському кризовому медіа-центрі. Тема першої прес-конференції – початок роботи виїзного мовного табору GoCamp для дітей із Луганської та Донецької областей. Нашими гостями є Lyubov Zalyubovska, координатор проекту GoCamps, Mustafa Nayem, засновник ініціативи GoGlobal, народний депутат України, також Georgiy Tuka, заступник міністра з питань тимчасово окупованих територій та внутрішньо переміщених осіб України, та Ніна Sorokopud, радник з питань громадської інформації Агентства ООН у справах біженців. Прошу, друзі. Першою буде говорити пані Lyubov. Всіх запрошую. Всіх одночасно запрошую.
Good morning. I am the coordinator of the GoCamps project coordinator, and that's why I'm going to tell about this project, what we have done already. At the beginning of this year, we decided to support the initiative of the Minister of Science and Education in Ukraine and to give them a hand with the initiation of the summer language camps. In order to do that, we had kind of contest between the schools of Ukraine, high schools, and we received 560 application requests from all different nooks of Ukraine, including Lugansk and Donetsk regions. The criteria we use for the selection, we asked the applicants to tell us about themselves and give the grounds for their motivation, why they want us to bring some volunteers, what they would like to have some methodology, and what they are prepared to give back. Are you going to help with the movement of the volunteers or give the accommodations or the housing volunteers, what kind of equipment the school possesses, whether the school has been a part of similar projects before, do they have an experience working with the foreign volunteers, etc. So the basic criteria of selection was specific motivation of the schools, motivation of the school children and the teachers of English in those respective schools. As a result, we selected 126 schools from different regions of Ukraine, where during June of this year they had the language camps, entitled GoCamps. I would like to specify that among those more than 200 towns and villages, 80% were really small towns and villages. We did not orientate ourselves to some large cities or the high schools with the in-depth study of foreign languages. We took in consideration, first of all, the motivation, because over 80% of the schools, I repeat myself, they represent the small towns and villages where the access to a foreign language speaking communities were limited. That's why we had a chance and we wanted to help those schools first of all. And special attention was directed to the schools from the Donetsk and Lugansk regions of Ukraine. And we saw a high interest among those schools to participate in these GoCamps projects. And we decided we cannot but pay attention to those schools, because feeling our responsibility for that, we decided we were going to organize a special, separate field GoCamp mission for the schools from those schools. And I'm talking about the schools from Severodonetsk, Konstantinovka, Mariupol, Popasna, Kremina, Pskov, and Dimitrov. Those schools who actually became the winners in our project. And on July the 4th, it was the inauguration day. I mean, we received the first 150 days in the camp, in the town of Volodorka. In order to overcome the linguistic or language barrier, we invited the foreign volunteers. And we'd like to emphasize this point of time that we did not put the emphasis on the volunteers only from such countries as United Kingdom or United States of America, where among the volunteers of foreign languages. We try to involve as many volunteers as possible from as many countries of the world as possible. We succeed in that. As a result, we have 117 volunteers from 38 countries of the world who could share their experience, their culture, heritage, their impressions, and also they are going to take their impressions of Ukraine and bring them to different nooks of the world: Australia, Brazil, Mexico, Belgium, and many, to just mention a few. And we also sensed, or we realized that we needed to prepare the teachers for their work in this kind of language, because the specifics of the letter and teaching the pupils or the children in such camps is different from what they are doing all over the academic year. During the academic year, that's why we approached the United States Embassy, and they invited the Oregon University professor Leslie Beckman, who actually provided 3 two-day training sessions in 3 cities in Ukraine: Kyiv, Odessa, and Lviv, attended by 150 school teachers. As a result, let's say, the active participation during those summer language camps, not only they were successful, but they had a lot of fun, and they was very interesting for the children involved in them. So we tried to ensure the activity and make it, their actions, activities, not only the education, just to involve them in different other aspects, with mimification, how to make something interesting, turning the study into the game, the play, etc. So I would like to say that we managed to achieve wonderful results owing to the fact that the teachers were well trained and prepared for their work in the language and the language camps, and owing to the involvement of the foreign countries volunteers who ensure the high level of the language practice and who actually involved children in communication, speaking, foreign language, in this specific case, English language. And the best result that the children now say that thanks to this GoCamp, they overcame this kind of linguistic or language barrier, and they are not afraid of speaking English. Thank you. The floor is given to Mustafa Nayem. Very briefly, first of all, let's congratulate each other, because for the first time ever in Ukraine, we have the first operator who can bring the foreign volunteers to this country. Never has been case before. More than 600 people actually were prepared to come here. And very briefly, this year, 9,000 Ukrainian children in Ukrainian towns, small villages, small townships, they received a good experience, and they understand of the big world. Not only we are talking about the English language, this is the opportunity to be involved in the information space, which we have been speaking for the last 2 years after Maidan. Those children who have already changed their world outlook, their mentality. They can know what's going on in this country and other countries. Next year, we would like to increase the number of volunteers. This year, 120 came to this country. This year, we would like to increase that number to the 1,000 plus. Who would be instrumental in giving this idea, sharing the experience with many young people in Ukraine. And before I give the floor, turn the mic to Mr. Tuka, I would like to say the biggest success of this project, that we managed to involve the children from the temporarily occupied territories, or those territories which are adjacent to the line of contact. This is very important. We would like to have the children on this side of the contact line and the other side of contact line have the same opportunity and experience. I really appreciate the Minister of infrastructure, education, and science, and all those MPs who assisted us or helped us in that. Somebody actually gave some their money. Somebody else helped us with some of the, let's say, different administrative tasks. And once again, I would like to emphasize those children actually have the experience. They saw with their own eyes the shellings and bombing, and they now have the chance to communicate with presence around the world. And I hope that next year, more than 1,000 of young people will have this opportunity. Maybe in 10 years from now, the new generation will not live through the problems we face today, and they will be able to avoid the wartime problems and Mr. They have the floor. In fact, this is the first project in which our minister was involved and which could be actually visualized. I'm really happy that this specific children project has become kind of startup which we can present. Many times I mentioned that all of us, we live in a very closed society that is the shortcut to manipulation. It's my great pleasure that with a great pleasure I actually I witnessed how they start to work to work with those children, specifically from the Lugansk and Donetsk regions. It's hard to overestimate the contribution of this camp and, generally speaking, of this project or this phenomenon. It's practically impossible, to overestimate that importance of that. Today, if you're talking about, time flies, and in 5-10 years from now, those children will become the full-fledged citizens of Ukraine, and pulling our efforts, we try to ruin in the children's minds and children's mentality certain stereotypes which have been implanted in their children's heads over the last few years. Unfortunately, I can see how they abuse our children on the temporarily occupied territories. And here's my word. And actually, I would like to express my aspiration and hope for the assistance to be given by international organizations, but we are going to do everything possible in order to involve the children into this project. I'm talking about those children who reside on the occupied territories. Coming here to this morning, well-known legend came to my mind about the Babylon Tower. When they started, they did not understand. They were quarreling all the time and fighting all the time, and the Lord of Wars actually decided to deprive them of the opportunity to communication. Started to talk different languages. They could not understand each other, but. We are talking not only about the ambitious idea, we are not talking about the further development of our statehood. We have to have a broader outlook regarding our task and and what we have to do. That's why the knowledge of the foreign languages can destroy and ruin those kind of world outlook and mentality, which our enemies happy to use today. You remember when some of the people came here to see those bloodthirsty Banderian people, and they from those parts here to Ukraine, and when they came back to the occupied territories, they started to mock, and their even parents, because they when they heard again about the children which were kind of slaughtered or something like that, this is a shortcut, the shortest path to peace and to the future. Here's my word: our ministry will continue to support this project as much as we can. And I appreciate the efforts of those people who have such an ambitious purpose to involve this big number of the volunteers to implement this project. And I'm really happy that they succeeded in doing that. Thank you. Thank you. Nina Sorokopud has the floor, and please speak slower because we have the simultaneous translation. First of all, I would like to thank our partners from the eastern parts of Ukraine for the participation in this project. Actually, residents in the eastern parts of Ukraine is kind of overdue to many of our people. Owing to our partners from the United Nations Children Fund, many of the children were given a chance to improve their being. And many of our colleagues who work in small towns and villages in Donetsk and Lugansk regions, many of the children, they have not even the child associated history. Some of them lost their parents or their housing, and some of the families were separated by the line of contact. So we try to involve and we created a network of the social activities where the children can get the assistance of the children psychologists. And this kind of access is very important to the children. When our Western partners approached us to help us with transportation of our children from the Lugansk and Donetsk region, this is a very good chance for them to get an access to high quality education provided by the volunteers. I believe that those weeks of Kiev will be a very good experience and the happy memories for those children who are going to be involved there. And we hope that we will have a bigger number next year from those parts of Ukraine who would stand the chance to study the foreign language together with our foreign volunteers. Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification? I have one. I would like to address my question to Lyubov Zalyubovska. Got a lot of figures. You mentioned that 126 schools were involved. 126 schools out of this number. 8 schools were represented from the Donetsk and Lugansk regions. For those schools, the first session of this camp started on the 1st of July. 150 children were to Volodyansk boarding school. So four cities sent their children on the 1st of July, and the another 4 cities will be represented in their tabor from the 16th. And the age bracket is between 11 and 16 years of age, 14 years of age. I also have a clarification speaking about the number of schools. You said 8 schools from the Donetsk region. So we're talking about the statistics representation. If we're talking about different regions of Ukraine, it's different number of schools were involved. Between 2-3 schools up to 7-8 schools. We did not wish to select equal number of schools in all our regions in Ukraine. As I mentioned before, the major criteria of the selection of the schools were the motivation. So without any relation to the geographical location, so we processed a lot of materials, video from schools, documents, etc. So we started to mark with special flags on the map of Ukraine with the location of those schools. So the results of this selection were kind of indicative, because we immediately could say which schools are more active, which have high motivation, which schools need more, for example, maybe their respective administrative bodies were best at their work. So I heard that you're going to increase the number of the children being involved in this project by another 100 something up to 1,000 plus. So your communication, you're going to start with the potential candidates actually right away, and maybe you'll take into consideration some of the shortcomings. This is the first experience to us. We have never done anything like that before. we can say that this was kind of incidental happening. We had a partner who, in the last hour, actually, to some extent, it was out of the project. So, but we managed to do it now, and we involved international agencies, etc. We understand that we have to involve some foreign volunteers to agree with those, and they come to Ukraine. There is a great interest in Ukraine. Another resource which have not been tapped yet or used yet, a huge diaspora. The Ukrainians who live in other countries and who would like to be involved in this. Speaking about the Minister of Education, we had some difficulties, but in fact I didn't hear or didn't see any kind of resistance, more that Mr. Chernyshin, Ms. Grinevich, it was their pleasure to help us. We had some imperfections because that was done, and very, very quickly. But maybe the next one will be not only the NGO support project, but all other institutions in Ukraine that the administration president, the railroad department, Ministry of Infrastructure, Ministry of Regional Construction, related ministries. So all those ministries have to unite, pull their efforts. We managed to do that. As for the local schools, we have some kind of database of the schools who cooperate already with us. As far as I know, that there is a kind of competition between the volunteers. While previously, we had the answers, I don't know, perhaps, or it's possible, etc. But there is no problem now. The only problem we could have, or might have, the financial support. The office, I'm talking about the office, which is, the kind of the instrumental one in this. We have just a small team of very brave people, Alexander Chiparenko, Alexander Vichkun, leader, who is also here. Really, it was really difficult to them. Now we have to start kind of systemic work, and I believe we will be successful. We will succeed in that. Just for the sake of comparison, if you're talking about the Georgia, we take special pride in. For 3 million strong population, they brought in 3,000 volunteers. If we would like to ensure the same result in language studying or learning, we need to bring in about 100,000 volunteers. Thank you very much. We are going to. This brings us to the end of our briefing, and wish you every